One of the strange aspects of giving a sermon here in an empty sanctuary, giving it to those of you who are watching from home, is that I have no way of knowing how many of you are there. Afterwards, we can track participation, but at this moment, I don't know whether there are 1,000 of you or 20. I have been to synagogue on the second day of the holiday for almost 50 years. And if you would have asked me when we first started these live streaming services, I would have guessed it would be closer to 20. I'd have been happy to find out it was 100. But I wouldn't have been shocked if it was closer to 10. Because I know that in a normal year on the second day of Pesach, we didn't have anything like 100 people in the sanctuary. Our executive director, Andy Berger, told me that last Shabbat morning, there were almost 800 people signed on to our service and about 975 for Friday Shabbat evening. I was blown away. I literally couldn't believe it. And even considering that many of you who have been and are participating are not from Beth Yeshurun, may not even be from Houston, I think it's pretty amazing. And even considering that this is a time when all of us are looking for additional support and want to connect to our synagogue in ways that we don't normally, I thought that was extraordinary. Those of you who come to the Greenfield Chapel and hear me give the sermon occasionally will appreciate that I rarely have that kind of audience. I'm used to talking to a small group of people, most of whom I know personally, maybe 100 people on Rosh Hashanah, maybe a few dozen at most on the second day of Passover. And so even though I can't see you, and may not even know many of you personally, in a special way I feel ma nishtana, how different this is from all other years that I get to daven together with you and to speak to so many of you. I would guess that every one of you participating this morning also participated in a Seder, and most of you had 2 Sedarim. And by the way, before I get to my main point, we all understand that the Seder this year wasn't the Seder we would have chosen. We would have wanted many guests in our home to be able to share with them the same meal that we were eating. We would have wanted to hug family and hold them close and to say, I love you. And Passover means so much more because you are here with us. And we Jews have been through many Sedarim that were far from ideal. Imagine Jews living in Christian Europe in centuries past who opened the door not only for Elijah, but also symbolically telling their Christian neighbors that you have nothing to fear from us. For many of their neighbors believed in the blood libel, that Jews killed a Christian child and used its blood in the making of matzah for Passover. Those Jews made Passover in terrible times, and yet, at least most of the time, they got through it. They made the Seder, and even though Elijah didn't come to announce the true redemption, that Seder had to be enough, and so it was enough. And so here is my question. I'm guessing that more than a few of you know the answer to this. There is one thing that is unique to the second Seder. One thing unique to the second day of Pesach. And what is that one thing? This is the audience participation portion of the sermon. Hit the buzzer in front of your computer if you know the answer. If you did a second Seder, you should know the answer to this. If you did the whole Seder. The answer is, at last night's Seder, we counted the Omer. You can't count the Omer at first Seder. You can do it today if you didn't do it last night, but if you do it today, you do it without the bracha. Only those who did it last night say the blessing V'tzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer thanking God who commands us to count the Omer. And then we said, Hayom Yom Echad La Omer. Today is one day of the Omer. If you don't happen to remember what the Omer is, there is a period of 49 days from the first day of Passover until the festival of Shavuot. Every evening, we are supposed to say the blessing and declare each day. Originally, an Omer was a thing, a sacrifice that contained a measure of barley brought to the ancient temple in Jerusalem every day during this period. But today, the Omer represents this period of time, leading us from the festival of freedom to Shavuot, the festival recalling the giving of the Torah at Sinai. Just as those fleeing Egypt walked in the desert for 49 days, we count another day, each day, as we travel to Shavuot. And just for the record, if you've been bored for the last few weeks, I would imagine Jews wandering the desert for 40 years without takeout, without Zoom sessions, without Netflix, probably experienced most of life as pretty boring. So what are the lessons of this mitzvah of counting the Omer? Lesson number 1 is know where you are going. The Israelites were going to Sinai. We're going to Shavuot, the festival which reminds us of Sinai. If we don't have Jewish goals, if we don't know where we're going, we're probably not going to get there. The 13th century Sefer HaChinuch, the Book of Education, says that the Israelites were only freed from Egypt at Passover in order to receive the Torah at Sinai and to fulfill all its laws. Counting the Omer is a way of saying, I accept all these laws in my life every day along the way. Shavuot is a reminder that our lives should be informed by the wisdom of the Torah and the path of Torah, the life of Torah. And if we want Judaism to be meaningful to those who come after us, we have to be willing to make that a priority. We have to make Torah more than just a sometime thing, something that only matters on rare occasions. But you already know that because you are here today. You have Jewish commitments. Lesson number 2 from the Omer is every day counts. And that's true in the literal fulfillment of the mitzvah, because the rule is that if you forget to count for a whole day, you are busted. For the rest of the Omer, you count without the blessing. But that only illustrates the bigger point, which is that every day is a gift. Even these days, which are constricted, which constrain us, which limit our interactions and our work, and for many people, their income. Even these days are a gift. And our challenge right now is to find ways to honor that, to make each day a day of growth and blessing, both for ourselves and for those around us. We can do that and still plan for tomorrow. It's not that we don't take a day off for certain things, we do. But even Shabbat is more than just a day off. It's a day off from some things so that we might do other things that add holiness to our lives. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the verse from Psalm 90, which says, "Teach us to number our days that we may attain a heart of wisdom." And this reminds us that every day is a day we can add to our knowledge, add new experiences, even while we are stuck at home. And when one day passes, tomorrow is another gift. And we should have the perspective and the wisdom to enjoy its potential for personal fulfillment and enrichment. The last days of Passover also mark the beginning of Israel's journey through the wilderness. Every day they had to keep moving, going forward to Sinai. And if we are really supposed to see ourselves as if we had gone out from Egypt, we need to be thinking about planning our own journey, about where we want to go, what goals we've set for ourselves, and what Sinai and the Promised Land mean for each of us. Each of you in this service has Jewish commitments, but you can set new goals as well. Lesson number 3 from the Omer is you must take each day one at a time. And that means no matter how difficult today was, there will be a tomorrow. Passover not only inspired those who longed for freedom, it led us to the place where we entered into an eternal covenant that has given meaning to Jewish existence ever since. And it took all 7 weeks to get there. How do we get through our current predicament, being shut in our homes, living with social distancing, living with all kinds of uncertainty? The answer is one day at a time. Counting the Omer reminds us that the journey may be hard, but at the end will be Shavuot, a revelation of something we did not know before. For the Israelites in the desert, the days surely did not feel remarkable, but they were part of a process that led to Sinai. It's an old legend, but it has a special meaning today. King Solomon sends out his servant to find a magic ring that makes happy people sad and sad people happy. And after a year of fruitless search, the frustrated servant is reluctantly prepared to return to his king empty-handed when he stumbles upon a jeweler near the palace gate. He explains to the artisan what he is seeking and is told to return the next day. He does, and he is handed the magical ring he has long sought. And carved into the gold were the words, Gam zu ya'avor, this too shall pass. When life is proceeding flawlessly, do not assume permanence. A fumble will happen. And when life is proceeding miserably, this too shall pass. I have a feeling that counting the Omer this year will be an especially meaningful mitzvah. Now, many believe that the special day of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, became a day of celebration because it marked the end of a plague among the sages in ancient Palestine. No one can say for sure what day we will be released from our homes and our more constrained lives, but we know that day will also be a day of celebration. We know that this time is part of a process that will lead to Shavuot, to greater wisdom, and at some point to return us to our cherished synagogue. But you still have to take it one day at a time. So let us take these lessons from the mitzvah of the counting of the Omer. Know where you are going. Know that each day can be a day that makes a difference, and get through the journey one day at a time. And now, if you did not count the Omer last night, please repeat after me. Hayom, Yom, Echad, La Omer. Today is one day of the Omer. May this day and each day lead us from slavery to freedom and to the blessings along the path. Amen.